Hey guys, it's Natavia with Why Be Confused, and this is the Boundary series. I don't know why I did that. Y'all know I'm weird. Y'all know what y'all signed up for. So, the Boundary series is exactly what it sounds like. This is a whole series talking about boundaries, how to set them, maintain them, and dealing with other people in relation to boundaries. This first video is about creating your boundaries. But before we even go into that, we need to talk about what is a boundary. What do you think? I know we had like a little Dora the Explorer moment, but I really want to know what you guys think a boundary is. So if you can, go ahead and pause this right quick, put in the comments what you believe boundaries to be, and then press play. Okay? I'm gonna give you another second. All right, so a boundary is a rule or guideline that you set up in order to maintain or create a healthy space for yourself. Okay? This can be expressed in a multitude of ways. For example, if you know you have to be up by 8 a.m., and in order to be a happy, productive person at 8 a.m., you need to be in bed by a specific time, then you create a boundary that you do not take phone calls, emails, or any other form of communication or responsibilities after a specific time. And when you do this, you factor in your wind down time. So for me, it takes me about an hour to wind down, right? So if I'm going to bed at, say, 9 p.m., my cutoff for the rest of the world is 8. All right? And we do these things so that way we can be successful in the next step. If you don't cut that off and you say, hey, I'm going to bed at 9 p.m., and you tell the rest of the world, hey, I'm going to bed at 9 p.m., people forget to factor in things like wind down time. So you will be getting phone calls until about 9:10. Because, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the time, my bad, da, da, da. So even with people with the best of intentions, they forget. It's not their life. It's not part of their responsibilities to keep track of your boundaries. It is part of your responsibilities to hold them firm. So give yourself like an 8 p.m. if you plan on being in bed at 9. So that way you can wind down, relax, and do whatever your routine is that gets you to sleep peacefully. All right? So that bedtime is something I brought up because a lot of us in our adult lives, we struggle with keeping a good sleep system. We go to bed whenever, we wake up when we need to, and our amount of sleep fluctuates. It is a challenge, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect. I still struggle with it every now and then. I have the boundary for the rest of the world, but I am working on the boundary for myself, right? So the rest of the world, don't talk to me after a certain time. I've got that done. But now myself, it's close that, don't do this, be in bed, right? So I actually have an alarm set that says, be in bed. In the bed, get in the bed, right? So these are the different things that you do. But I did this because not getting enough sleep was something that was stressing me. I was waking up groggy. I couldn't get out of the bed as easily. I was having to like push myself out with these weird conversations I was having with myself, or by forcing myself with the alarms, because you guys know in the goal setting series, I use Alarmy, and Alarmy requires you to complete a mission before you can turn off the alarm. So I had to force myself to have some type of ridiculous mission in order to get out of bed, and I tend to try to stumble back into the bed after that, but I have to keep pushing myself to not do that. So I realized when I get 8-9 hours of sleep, I don't have that struggle. So I created that boundary in order to resolve that issue. I'm still in a work in progress with that, but there are other boundaries that I have created that are very effective. Now, like boundaries with my job. This is not as popular as some of the other boundaries, but workplace boundaries are very important, especially when it comes to burnout, because most people burn out due to work-related stress. That's the most popular form of burnout. So when it comes to your job, you realize what stresses me about this job. What are the stressors that I have control over in some sort of way? Is it my office hours are too flexible? Okay, I need to condense my office hours. I need to get these things done before these office hours so that way this time it can be up in the air and whatever comes at me I can handle. Or is it I'm tired of checking my email when I'm not at work? It's interfering with my personal life. Okay? Then you set a little robotic automated thing that says, I'm sorry, I am out of the office in the morning. I will respond back to you in such and such time. If anybody has ever DM'd me on Instagram, I have that kind of system where when I am not on social media, you get a message back that says, hi, you've caught me during my social media detox time. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I will be back, blah, 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 and I will let you know within this amount of time. Thank you, right? And those things are not as taboo as they sound. Most people's reaction to that is, oh, they're busy. We internalize it as, oh my God, I'm not available. Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm terrible. Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm not the person for them. I'm not reliable. We take ourselves through that spin out. But we have to remember, in order to be our best selves, we can't be our burnt out selves. So we set these boundaries to prevent these issues. What can be done to limit and avoid the experiences? That's really what boundaries are about. To limit and avoid those stressful, hard to manage experiences that we have. We're trying to make our lives easier, not more complicated. And we are one person. Therefore, we can only handle one shift. We are not a 24-hour store. And actually with COVID, there's barely any more 24-hour stores. So the whole mindset of how we operate our lives has to be according to, I have one shift. And we have to kind of put things into that. And I know that can struggle, but when you're starting out with creating boundaries, I don't recommend trying to create a boundary for every stressor in your life. Pick one main one, and create a boundary that could help you with that. Once you do this, you get a good control over it, you get a good feel for it, you get used to saying, I'm sorry, I'm not available. No, I'm unable to handle that at this time. My plate is currently full. Once you get used to having those kind of conversations, then pick up another boundary and another area that stresses you. And you just kind of add them on slowly. And if you're worried about any pushback, remember that we are teaching people how to treat us, right? And when you create boundaries, you are teaching people, she does not do this. We cannot treat her this way because she does not do this, right? And I can tell you, a lot of people, for the boundaries that I created a long time ago, that's not even a question. People don't come up to me and ask me to do things during those times. They don't ask me to do things that are outside of my boundaries, because I have established that with them and I have maintained that with them. So they didn't even think of me on their list of people to ask. And while that can sound a little harsh, it really is what's best for everyone involved. Because if I wasn't to do that, then they would keep asking me. I would keep getting frustrated, trying to push through it. But then our relationship will get frayed and it will be a whole hot mess. So when you're coming to creating your boundaries, don't feel uncomfortable about teaching people how to treat you. And setting a boundary does not mean that you were an ice queen who was just like, nope, it is 8 p.m. Setting a boundary means that if someone hits you up at 8 p.m. and it's past that time for you, you don't respond to that. The next day you respond, you go, oh, I'm so sorry, I was in bed. Right? You start slowly doing things like that. Oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't at my computer. Oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't doing this. I was doing that. Oh, I was busy at that moment. And people start clicking. And then if it keeps happening, you could like, oh yeah, I normally go to bed around 8, so anytime after 8, you probably won't be able to get me. I'm so sorry for that. Right? And then eventually, once you get comfortable with it, you'll stop apologizing for it. So it's not that not apologizing because I'm a jerk and I'm just like, oh, you should not have to apologize for being yourself. That's part of it. Like, you shouldn't have to apologize for being yourself. You shouldn't have to apologize for taking care of yourself. But also, it is so much the norm now that it doesn't have to come with a sorry. I was asleep. Oh, okay, girl, you're good. Oh, okay, that's fine. Because if anybody else told you they were asleep and that's why they couldn't respond to your text message, would your response be, well, you should have woke up for me? Well, why were you asleep at a reasonable time to sleep? If that is your response, you may be a boundary trampler. And we're gonna talk about that later. But most sensible people don't respond that way. So, if I were you, when it comes to creating your boundaries, I would list down all your stressors, put them in order, most stressful to least stressful. And I know that's gonna sound terrible because sometimes you're like, I don't know how to gauge what degree of stress this causes me, but you're gonna really have to sit down and think. Creating a boundary is not as simple as saying, no, stop that. Sometimes it is, but when you're not used to it, you're gonna have to put a lot of planning into it and making sure that it goes the way you need it to. So write them down, list them out from most stressful to least stressful. Sorry, there's a cat pawing at me. And then the most stressful one, brainstorm, what can I set up that reduces my stress in this area? And if you have problems with that, DM me. It is at YBConfused on Instagram. I can help you. We can set up a session. We can work this out and get you guys the first boundary that would really help you reduce stress. And if you remember, stress leads to burnout. And not admitting that you are human and you need a turn-off time, or you need a guideline or some type of strategic setup to keep you organized, that leads to burnout. So we're all about burnout prevention right now, right? We talked about some recovery stuff, but the best way to do it is to try to prevent the burnout from happening in the first place. So let's get you guys on that path and let's start creating some boundaries. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a like, hit subscribe so that you can see more of the videos in this series. Good gracious, guys. I've been gone too long. But I thank you guys so much for choosing YBConfused for your boundary prevention and recovery needs. I'll see y'all later. Bye.